Hello everyone, I'm Bob Treemore. We've had some good news this week on Tread Plus. We've had a long dry spell, but this week we're seeing hints that the Tread Plus may not be completely dead. The Phoenix may rise yet again. The Tread Safety Guard this week was revealed. This is what we're going to talk about. Here it is right here. Guard Assembly for Exercise Machine Patent. It was published, it was filed in September 2022, but it's published, meaning available to you and me to look at Thursday, 2 days ago. Now, I tweeted about this at the time. Here it is here. What I want to make clear before we go on and talk about the patent and some other things is I did tweet about another treadmill, Tread Plus patent in 2022. This is not the one we're going to talk about today. This did not get a lot of traction, did not get a lot of interest. Frankly, neither have yet gotten a lot of interest. The most recent one is very new. But this one in 2022 that we were made aware of. And if you can see it, well, I'll explain to you briefly. This was using like space lasers and stuff like that. It frankly seemed unrealistic. Here we've got lasers on the top. We've got lasers on the side. We've got lasers underneath, and we're infrared beams and proximity beams. We even have zones. Is the runner in the camera? Is the runner toward the front of the treadmill? Is the runner in the middle of the treadmill? Is the runner back opposite the treadmill? This patent was called like proximity object detection treadmill patent, something of that nature. This seemed a little out there. This seemed a little bit of an overreach by Peloton to correct what the CPSC was asking for. We may still see this type of technology, but it was a leap to go from the Tread Plus as we knew it and as we know it today, which is a treadmill and a screen and the key switch for safety, and that was it, to this thing with laser beams and proximity sensors. This was a lot of stuff. And it was hard to believe at the time how realistic this would be for Peloton to complete, because this is a completely remanufactured job. I mean, this treadmill is so different from the Tread Plus we know and love. But this week, we got the Guard Assembly, the all infamous, famous thing that we've been asking for such a long time. Why can't you just put a plastic shroud on the backside and get it back out to market? This week, we saw it. No more overreach. Now, we're going to get to the patent here in a second. But, I don't know if you've watched my other videos. I always like to do a little background. And I think it's necessary for people. Though you can skip ahead if you want to. But I love the background part. How we got to here. Where we're going from this patent we saw the other day. But again, you can skip ahead if you want to see what this actually does. But where have we been for the last 2 years? Where have we been? 2 years. It's hard to believe. It's been 2 years. I think, frankly, it feels like 3 or 4 years. It feels like such a long time. This is where we've been. You try to search Tread Plus on Peloton, you get a sign-up page for 2 years. Hasn't changed. Stay in the know about Tread Plus. Our member safety is top priority. Tread Plus sales are on hold for the foreseeable future. But you can sign up. Believe me, I signed up a long time ago. And I've not gotten a single notification. Most of the times you sign up for these things and you can't stop the emails from coming in, and you unsubscribe 2 weeks later. I've not gotten a single thing from here, which is too bad. We want Tread Plus to come back. This is where we've been for 2 years, unknowing, with a sign-up sheet. Is Tread Plus dead? Is it alive? Is it still being worked? Do people care about it? This is not going to be a Barry-heavy video. A lot of times I go into Barry, what's Barry thinking, the CEO of Peloton. I'm not going to touch a whole lot on Barry today. But Barry, not a huge fan of hardware. And so we were really up in the air. All of us members of Peloton or people who are interested in Peloton, what is the future status of the Tread Plus? And we just haven't known. I mean, we're going to deal briefly with some background, like I said, and then we'll actually look at what the current patent released 2 days ago or published 2 days ago actually is. The more realistic patent with a plastic shroud that we've all been like telling Peloton to make. I mean, how hard the quote is like, how hard is a Peloton to put a plastic shroud on there? How long does it take to form a piece of plastic? Well, we know it's at least 2 years and probably longer, if ever. We're still not there yet. So let's go to November 2020. Keep that date in mind. Late 2020, because things start to happen in early 21. We're going to get to that in the next slide. But this slide, November 2020, months before the pan sees feces jumping into it. Or the fan? Yeah, that's right. Fan sees feces jumping into it. Since our founding, this is John Foley, then CEO, though he was troubled waters were churning at this time. Since our founding, we've prided ourselves on being a members first organization and having an important part of having our members first focus. This seems common knowledge, members first. Well, certainly with Peloton, if you know Peloton, Peloton always outwardly and I think internally really carried that flag for the most part, with one glaring exception. Let's look at the road that got us to today. The estimates were, and this is a timeline. It's not arranged like a timeline because it's just too much data to put on that type of thing. And it's kind of small, especially if you're looking at a phone. But I'm going to cover the highlights. I'm not going to read through all this stuff. Cover the highlights. It has been estimated. Peloton doesn't release these figures, but it has been estimated that 125,000 Tread Pluses were sold between 2018, the introduction, and 2021 before the recall. So when the fan started to spin and pieces of contaminants began entering the fan, and I'm not making any levity of the situation. Understand that. We're just going through what it is. God bless the families who suffered through hardship here. So don't take any levity against that. But in March 2021, Members First, just a few months ago, Foley's still in charge. Foley's still in charge in March 2021. It was learned a 6-year-old died after becoming trapped beneath the treadmill. And soon after, we started learning about more and more injuries. People started coming forward about, hey, also my 4-year-old got injured and my dog got injured. So a wave of injury reports started to follow behind this much publicized 6-year-old perishing beneath the treadmill. And this obviously was the jumping off point for the tread getting rapidly off the market. So that was in March 2021. A month later, CPSC warns consumers, quit using it. We recommend Consumer Safety and Protection Commission or agency, CPSC. They look out for people's welfare and that they're not injured on new products coming into the market or existing in the market. They handle a lot of the recalls and stuff like that. Peloton, initial response in April, we're shocked and devastated, but, and here's where things got a little even uglier. The tread is safe for the home. We just ask you to keep children and pets and other objects away from it. It's safe. Don't. CPSC is overreacting. And there's some debate whether the CPSC overreacted. In the larger picture of Peloton is not the only people selling treadmills, and Peloton is not the only people who have suffered, their members have suffered injuries from their treadmills. A lot of people make treadmills. There is a lot of injuries. This is all public data. You can research it yourself. Treadmills are inherently a bit dangerous if not used properly. So there was a lot of hemming and hawing. Is Peloton truly at fault? Uh, or is it just the nature of the beast for treadmills? I mean, you can sell a knife. A knife is inherently dangerous, but it is what it is. And a treadmill is somewhat anything you buy could potentially be inherently dangerous. So Peloton went down that road initially. We're shocked and devastated, but the tread's safe. It's fine. Just keep people away from it. There's a lot of outrage. This thing, members first, people were not feeling the vibe from Peloton. They didn't feel they were taking it seriously. Again, in April, boy, this happened so quickly. If you were living through it like I was, I mean, it was every day seemed to have more news, and it just was like, when is Peloton going to kind of wake up and realize this isn't going away? And a members first brand is essentially ignoring this and poo-pooing it. Soon after, Foley, this is John Foley now, the decision to recall it was the right thing to do. Peloton made a mistake in our initial response. We should have engaged more proactively with the CPSC. And for that, John Foley, I apologize. So the weight of social media, news articles, and the news agencies have never been a fan of Peloton. I mean, they just get so excited when negative things happen to Peloton. Why, I don't know. I think it's just a popular brand, it's clickbait, and Peloton is known by essentially every living person in the United States. And it's easy to publish about an article about Peloton, and you can get people to read it and click it. And the best things to write to get the most clicks are negative, and the media just loves writing negative things about Peloton. So there was a lot of negative news, and here's Foley saying, when we came out, we our kind of blow off response was not the right one. So in May, CPSC announces discussions with Peloton, and it was officially recalled. Peloton itself, in a press release, you should stop using the Tread Plus. And if you return it, we'll give you a full refund, May 2021. For next year and a half, we're offering a full refund if you want to return it, no matter what the age of your Tread Plus was. You could have bought it in 2018. But if you write in and tell us, we'll pick it up and we'll issue you a full refund for how much you cost. That was in May. So quick succession, March, April, May. And then what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Absolutely nothing. Radio silence. The world had a lot of concerns in this period of time. Peloton was selling a lot of equipment outside the Tread Plus because of what we were going through. The Tread Plus was off the chart sell. It was under the radar, off the radar, not visible. And meanwhile, they had introduced what I'm going to call, just for clarification's sake, the Tread Mini. They just call it the Tread, but for clarification between the two, I'm going to call it the Tread Mini. So people's treadmill appetites were satiated with the Tread Mini. But for 19 months, between May 2021 and October 22, radio silence. Peloton refused to talk about it. And mostly probably because there's a lot of lawsuits happening in the background. I'm sure their counsel advised them not to talk about it. And certainly, I think everyone understood that with the death of the child and injuries of other children, there was going to be an acclimation period where people's grieving and thoughts about that incident needed time to kind of get past. But 19 months we went. And then in October, CPSC and Peloton said, we've talked again. And we're extending. We originally gave you a full refund out to November 22. We've talked again. And no one knows what exactly what happened in that boardroom. But they said, we're extending it yet another year. Now you could have bought a treadmill in 2018, and we're going to still give you a refund in 2023. the inside story is obviously there was still work to do. And CPSC, whether CPSC asked or whether Peloton said, we can we give you a little snack while we're working on this thing to kind of keep you tied over CPSC so you stay off our back. We are going to proactively give our members another year for the refund. So let's try to press down the negative feedback about a Tread Plus, and CPSC probably readily accepted that and said, yeah, we think that's a great idea, though I don't even know why CPSC cared about that. But it was a joint press release. Both were very excited to announce it. Meanwhile, in this time, this is when that crazy laser beam patent came out, and it also was when the patent that we're going to talk about, but the guard, it was when it was submitted. We didn't know that at the time because we only have seen it recently. It was apparently some kind of confidential hold. We only saw it until this past week. I could tell you my intuition is, well, let's maybe we shouldn't go into that. Let's not go into that. So there was 19 months there. In October, well, and then in January, 3 months later, again, just no news about Tread Plus. The only thing we heard in 19 months was we're going to extend the refund, which is almost non-news. It's just kind of a thing, right? Just a random thing. It's nothing to be excited about. It doesn't give us any information as to the future of Tread Plus. January 2023. CPSC says Peloton has agreed to pay $19 million as civil penalty. Now, this is news. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand if this is like this settles all lawsuits or just settles with the government but it certainly brings a lot of the weight off Peloton. And from what I read, 19 million is literally like the maximum the CPSC by definition could give Peloton. I think one member of CPSC actually said, I wish I could give them a higher fine, but we had settled for 19 million. So Peloton forked over $19 million to CPSC, and that hopefully settles at least historical injuries, and Tread Plus is off the market at this point. Historical concerns. So the recalls and whatnot, they exist, but the product hasn't been sold for 2 years. And all litigation with the government, at least, has now been brought to a close. And now it is up to Peloton to decide whether it wants to bring Tread Plus back to the market. And that is kind of where I was going just a few months ago when I was considering when they submitted this guard patent, which now we are soon going to get into. It was around the same time, October, January. During that discussion, when Peloton extended out the warranty, and they probably knew at that time also the 19 million was coming down the pipe. Did Peloton kind of submit this guard to them quietly and said, "Is this going to do the trick?" Hopefully, the CPSC, is saying, it'll do the trick. So now it might be a little bit off your screens, but now we're well over 2 years, right? March 2021. We're in March 2023. So let's talk about the new patent. We're going to go through some text briefly, and then we're going to look at some photos. What this new patent is doing. There's a physical guard on the back of the treadmill. Whether it's retrofittable, I'm going to make up a word today. Is it retrofittable? I don't know. Seems like it could be. But it's got two aspects to it. It's got a top guard or top portion, and it's got a rear portion. So you can kind of thinking, if I put my fingers top-wise into the treadmill, can it wrap around? Camera. Can it wrap around and get underneath? And then if something enters from the back or slightly under the treadmill, can it get underneath? So this is addressing those two aspects. The guard can prevent stuff from getting under the treadmill and prevent damage or injury. It can provide safety between the belt and the ground, protecting user from pinch points, which is kind of where I was talking about someone's towel or someone's actually grabbing the back end of the treadmill from on top. But the guard itself, or the shroud, is non-intelligent. It is literally just a piece of plastic or rubber, maybe some bristles. We'll get there in a second. It is just a physical device. Is that going to be acceptable to CPSC? Having a physical barrier that theoretically and hopefully practically stops the incidents that we've seen in the past. I would think so. I mean, I don't know the entire world of treadmills, but largely, this was the main issue: is that Peloton's unique design made it easier for objects to get trapped beneath. This alleviates that. It doesn't do all the space laser stuff, but it kind of brings it up to par with basic expectations of what the safety of a treadmill should be. However, also in this patent, and like I said, we'll get the pictures here in a second. Within the patent, we do a little bit of the space laser set. They said not only is there guard, but we may also do some sensors. Basically, I'm not going to read through this, but the sensors, while the guard prevents stuff from entering the treadmill, going underneath or whatever, it doesn't change the treadmill's operation, doesn't shut it down or slow the track or reverse the track. It just prevents a physical barrier. The IR sensors are other ways to do this. I mean, they talk about inclinometers and accelerometers, gyroscopes, and or infrared sensors, beams, kind of like your garage door that if it breaks, something happens, the treadmill stops or slows down. We may also integrate some other sensors. This patent, literally, it just says we may integrate some other sensors. I wouldn't be a bad idea, right? Get it up to basic and then a little bit basic plus. Not a bad idea, but yet not the crazy space laser stuff we saw. Let's look at some pictures. This is the guard. To me, I kind of think of it as a shroud, but the rear guard. Here's kind of a, if you're laying on the floor looking at the back of the machine, this is kind of what we're looking at, this device. And within the patent, they say it's plastic or rubber, or maybe some other material, but it's a little bit deformable. It's not very rigid. It's because if you can imagine your fingers in there, if it was extremely rigid, it would kind of scrape your hand. So they want it a little bit deformable. So if something gets in there, it can kind of bend and flex a little bit. So it's soft plastic or rubber. Here we see the both aspects that the patent talks about, kind of the bristles or some device that Peloton plans on, the bristles to stop the fingers or towel or something from initially kind of getting in there from the top, and then the rear portion blocking something initially to get underneath the treadmill. And the patent goes into, and if you can, I don't know how many y'all watching this would actually read the patent, but and it's, if you follow my Twitter, you can find the link. But the patent shows these images off to the side, and initially I was like, oh, this thing's like motorized rotational pivoting thingamajigger. No, this is just Peloton saying we haven't yet decided if we pursue this patent, because patents are filed, they may or may not be pursued. But we may position it this way, or we may position it this way, or we may position it this way, or we may position it in a way that we're not depicting in images. But we're going to position it somehow. So this is non-movable, non-electronic, non-intelligent. It is a physical piece. So those, especially investors, first question is, can this be retrofitted? Is it detachable, attachable? Can we just get a couple screwdriver? Are there attachment points where we can just slap this thing on or snap it in? I don't know. Patent doesn't talk anything about that, and the patent wouldn't. The IR sensors or accelerometers or gyroscopes, stuff like that, that would be a beast, I would think, to retrofit. This, the patent just doesn't go far enough. And well, it's not far enough. It's just not applicable for the patent to talk about whether it's retrofittable. Peloton knows, because Peloton, I'm assuming, still has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these that have literally been in the most back corner of the warehouse. They might even be in those pods trailers sitting in the parking lot because these have been off the market for so long and there was just no reason to ever believe these were ever going to get on the market again. They might have destroyed them. They might still have them, but the storage costs alone, these things are so far in the red from Peloton. I mean, they've probably paid in storage if they still have them. They have a negative valuation. Whatever, let's say these things listed for like $4,000. Peloton, let's just pretend Peloton paid the manufacturer 2,000. Let's just make up figures. They paid 2,000 to make this thing. In storage costs alone, Peloton is probably out $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 on each treadmill. There's no hope of making their money back. But could they recoup something? The thing is, retrofit's not free. You have to open the packaging or tear open the packaging. Go in there, have labor, attach this stuff, put it in fresh, new packaging. So if this thing costs you $2,000 to get it to the warehouse, now with labor and the costs of the guard, just to get this thing back up to spec and put it in brand new packaging, you're probably talking $300 or $400 additionally for the machine, and you're already $4,000 or $5,000 in the red. I'm doing the best I can with these figures. I was in warehousing for 25 years, so I have some experience. That's a lot to ask for. But hope is not dead. We've now seen 2 patents, a space laser, crazy, off-the-wall patent in 2022, and in 2023, we're seeing a plastic guard. There's hope. Phoenix, I think, will rise. And if you've watched some of my other videos, I think even in my most recent video, or maybe the second most recent, I was like, I really believe in 2023, we're going to see the reintroduction of Tread Plus against Barry's basic instincts against hardware. Again, I don't think he's against hardware. I think he's just more excited about software. But that takes us really to our last slide today, and that is, what's the price and when? Bob, tell me, you know, what is the price and when? First off, I don't know. I will give you theories. That's what I do on this channel. I give theories largely. Let's talk about when first. I think it's conceivable. Bob Treemore thinks it's conceivable this could hit the market in 2023. I don't really care about that extension warranty till November 2023. That's a contractual thing for a full refund. Theoretically, if you read the fine print, or at least I know on the 2022 one, you could still after November 2023, you could still return it for a partial refund. So there's no hard date around. Well, it's got to come after November 2023 because that's when this full refund thingmadoo ends. No, that's just a thing. That's a piece of paper. Now, would they release it before November? I mean, and then you get a whole arbitrage of you buy a tread and you return it. Let's not overcomplicate matters. The fact is that warranty thing has no exact bearing on when they release it. They don't tell me about arbitrage or something garbage like that. Arbitrage warranties. Do people do that? I don't know. They could release it before November 23. The thing is, the patent was just filed. They likely, in all likelihood, I mean, they actually filed this in September 22. So we're talking 6 months ago. They obviously have prototypes. They've obviously attached it in their headquarters or their Skunk Works facility and tested it out. Maybe they're even beta testing it in employees' homes. We don't know, or at least we don't have evidence to that effect. But this is not all theoretical. They're submitting patents. That space laser thing, that's going to require a lot of work. But the shroud, if it really is just attachable with a few screws. We talked about the costing arguments. Yeah. Or are they going to have to remanufacture the whole thing because there are no bolt-on points for this shroud? If they're going to have to remanufacture it, then they have to retool the factories, have to do production prototypes, and then full production. Then we're probably in 2024. If this thing can be attached to an existing Tread Plus, I'm omitting the whole laser accelerometer stuff like that. Maybe that's a phase 2. I think 2023 is not unrealistic. 2024 certainly would be more realistic. 2025 would be more realistic. I mean, let's carry it away with this thing. Price. Oh boy. I've done a lot of pricing stuff on Peloton. Last price from 2-3 years ago was $4,295. Is Peloton going to say, you know what, we're reintroducing the Tread Plus? Are they going to call something different just to avoid the press? I don't know. But we're reintroducing Tread Plus. Are they going to say, with the additional safety features, this is remarkable. This remarkable machine is even more remarkable, and it deserves an even more remarkable price. It is now yours for the low price of $4,999. Oh my gosh. I've said multiple times before, I've used this Tread Plus. I've used the Tread Mini, and I don't own either, but I've used the Tread Mini and I've used the Tread Plus. This Tread Plus is worth $4,295. If you've made it this far in the video and you're still watching and you've never used the Tread Plus, you may find it hard to believe. Go find a friend who has a Tread Plus, climb on it for a few minutes. You will understand how this machine is so much better than nearly every other machine. There's talk about Woodways. Those Woodway machines cost like $10,000. And it's similar to this. You stand off a standard treadmill. No, the bikes, pricing, the bikes are a little bit commoditized. I don't think the Peloton bike is that much more fantastic than its competitors. But this thing, it legitimately is worth $4,295. But if Barry and or Peloton, let's see how long Barry lasts at this point. Not for on his choice, his terms. He came out of retirement for this gig. How long he's going to stay is, I think, largely up to him. Is Barry going to really raise the price because it has additional safety features, of which it should have had in the beginning? Or is it going to come out at $42.95? Or is the world going to shatter? And Barry actually introduces a product, introduces a product at a lower price, at $36.99. My mind would explode, because that's just not Barry. My mind would explode. There's so much pent-up demand for these Tread Pluses. Oof. I'm a pent-up demander. I want this thing. I've wanted it for 2 years. I'm going to want it, I think we're going to be close to 3 years before it comes out again, but I do think it's going to come out again. I do. And if we're going to end it here, talk long enough about the new guard patent. I'm so excited. I wasn't excited about the Space Laser one because it just seemed unrealistic. Someday, I think Peloton will probably roll that out. And maybe they'll roll it out on the Tread Mini to begin with, as the Tread Mini Plus, or Mini, I don't know what they're going to call it. Tread Mini Medium. Better, best. Better, good, better, best. Barry loves his good, better, best. And it's frankly a good plan. We'll see where these treads go. I'm excited about this band. I hope you are too. Let's talk again in 6 months. And let's hope one or both of us have an email order receipt for this thing. I want it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.